Welcome to Liberty's Cage, where we shatter the chains of a corrupt justice system that punishes patriots, buries the truth, and betrays our Constitution. Born from the ashes of January 6th, when Americans stood bold and faced persecution, we're here to expose the lies, uplift the silence, and fight for justice that honors our nation's heart. I'm Sarah McAbee, joined by my co-host Shane Jenkins. Shane, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing much better than I have been. So thank you for asking. How are you, Sarah?
I'm good. And today we are also joined by a very special guest, a proud American who's faced the system's wrath, and because of that, he has risen stronger. Despite facing relentless persecution, including a 22-year sentence for January 6th, Enrique was pardoned by the president, returning to fight for justice. His unyielding spirit and a vision for a stronger America inspired us all. Welcome, Enrique.
Uh-oh, you're muted. We can't hear you, Enrique. Is this your first podcast ever?
I thought that about you when you joined.
Oh, when you record, I'm sorry. Okay,
go.
so here, I guess they'll have to edit, but thanks for having me, Sarah. Thanks for having me, Shane. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me. 22 years. I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life in prison, and here I sit with you guys from the comfort of my Miami studio, talking to two great patriots. And again, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's incredible to have you here. What drives you to keep fighting after everything you've been through?
Resilience. I think that my family instilled that in me, coming from a family that fled communism in 1963. So I was kind of born into this this movement, and the way that I was raised was to always kind of fight back and always be involved in one way or another, which is, you know, the election of Donald Trump in 2016, there was a lot of people that weren't active, that didn't really care, that just went about their day, went to Starbucks, went to work, did their 9 to 5 and didn't care. And, you know, with Donald Trump's election in 2016, it electrified the entire country, and a lot of more people got involved. And I've actually been involved since 2004. Unfortunately, the first time that I've ever gotten introduced into like actual politics and activism was during the second Bush reelection. Well, the Bush reelection. But that's what drives me. It drives me because it's the future. It's like our kids, our grandkids, and then go on generations past that. Like how long will America last? And you know, we kind of saw a little peek into the future with the 4 years of Biden, with his weaponization of the federal government, which is something that my family fled to begin with. So that's what drives me. And I hate saying this, but I am driven a little bit by anger and retribution. But
As you should be.
and that's what keeps me with the energy to keep moving forward.
So,
Yeah, righteous anger for sure.
are you saying that you're to blame for the second Bush 4 years? So,
That's why I always have to like pretense it and be like, well, fortunately and unfortunately, you know, at the time I was a normie, and it was actually, you know, like if you go back in the time machine, it was the only choice. It was that or John Kerry, and John Kerry wasn't
much better choice.
He was a much worse choice, as we saw him as Secretary of State for a little bit. He did a horrible job, and then because of Bush, we had 8 years of Obama. So, you know, there's so many paths that one can take. If you were to go back in that time, like if John Kerry was elected, would Obama be elected in 2008? The answer is I don't know.
Well, I do think that it's interesting, and I didn't have any idea because I basically was woken up. I don't know when, Sarah, when you came active, but I wasn't really activated like as far as politically until 2020, whenever I lost my job in the oil field to COVID, and all the vaccine mandates and the manual shutdown and all that. But it's interesting to know that you go that far back. So this isn't your first rodeo, as we say.
Well, the first time that I got put in handcuffs ever in my life, funny as it may be, is I was standing on the asphalt, and across from me was a bunch of riot cops throwing tear gas into the crowd, and I was throwing tear gas back. And that was in 1999 during the Elian Gonzalez riots. I was only like 14 years old. To be honest, I mean, I had like some political sway at that time, but I was just being a little shit at that time. So I probably, they kicked my ass after, but I probably deserved it.
So you were out door knocking for Bush, and Shane, you asked when I got activated. I've always been political, but you were out door knocking for Bush, and I was in the 4th grade, and I came home from school one day, and I was so upset, and my mom was like, "Sarah, what is wrong with you?" And I was crying, and I was like, "My teacher's a Democrat," and she was like, "How do you even know this?" And she's like, I was like, "She has a John Kerry mug sitting on her desk."
Yeah. I mean, those were the times. Like, and I got activated. I got red pilled. Actually, not on like some fight for your right. I worked at Blockbuster. It was like one of my first jobs. I worked at Blockbuster. I was the assistant store manager, and there was an employee there that wouldn't stop talking about John Kerry. And I wasn't politically active at the time, and I was like, he made me so angry. I like literally signed up. I started door knocking, and on election day, I'll never forget. This was another red pill moment. I came into work and I got to brag that my candidate beat his, right. And it was a good feeling at the time. Looking back, you got the Patriot Act and all that happened because of the Iraq War. Going into Afghanistan, which I agree with going into Afghanistan. I didn't agree with going into Iraq, but a lot has happened since then, and I've worked every general, midterm, and special election since then.
Because you worked all that, have you met anybody that you would say is probably more famous than you?
During those times, yeah. As a matter of fact, I met Marco Rubio. I'm not going to take credit for that, but the Tea Party movement started in 2010, and we started the Tea Party group here in Miami shortly a couple months after the movement gained steam. And I met with Marco Rubio a couple times, which is now the Secretary of State, maybe our next vice president. I don't know. But I've met a lot of people. And in 2014, I met a gentleman by the name of Roger Stone at a book signing. And ever since then, like we've been friends, very good friends at that point.
I just missed something. Did you just call Enrique Tarrio famous? Is that what you just said, sir?
I'm a celebrity. You know what I'm saying. I'm kidding.
I mean, most people would. Do you live under a rock, Shane?
What I would say in Enrique's defense, not defense, but on your behalf, is I know you're out there in the media, and if I just type in your name, it's like, golly, but so I would say that you're one of the most down to earth, like easy, like just man's man, fun to be around, hang out, just a regular person who happens to be very passionate about politics.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. Like I didn't do anything to make myself famous or whatever, or be able to be Googled and the pictures are all over the place. Actually, the right wing or the Republicans didn't do that either. The left wing demonized us for so long, right? They created me, and they created Shane, and they created Sarah.
Yeah, really.
And then and a lot of people that you see right now that have these bullhorns, were given these bullhorns, are people. I don't say anything different than anybody else. Like I see people like speaking in front of crowds, and they have like it's intellectual. They have these points. They have the graphs. I don't have that. So I don't think I say anything different than anybody else, but the left seems to demonize me, and there's many reasons why. One of those reasons is my skin color, right? Because the left has paraded minorities as like pet mouthpieces, like their little dog that they walk around. They're like, oh, look what I got, for so long that they really didn't give a crap. So when somebody comes up and like their skin tone's the color of mine, they get offended. It's not like Republicans, like conservatives. I'm going to say conservatives for the most part, they don't give a shit what color you are, what race or religion you are. They don't care. Mm-hmm. So you're just one of the guys, to them. When you're with Democrats, if you're a person of color, suddenly it's like, oh, look at this. Look at my friends. Look at my neighbor. You know what I'm saying? I know that I have a black friend.
The token black guy.
Yeah, they that's what they use them for, because they haven't given a shit about them. Right. Don't tell me Obama did anything for the black community, right? He didn't do shit for them. He promised a lot. He didn't do anything. As a matter of fact, the person who has done more for minorities, right? And it's not because they're a minority, just Americans in general, is Donald Trump.
That's the truth.
You know, because he doesn't give a shit what color you are. He doesn't care what your race, where you're from, your creed, your religious background, your cultural background. It doesn't matter.
Well, he appointed a homosexual to the highest, I forget his name, but he works in the administration now. He appointed Susie Wiles to the highest off. You know what I mean? Not that I necessarily like Susie Wiles, but
Yeah.
I would say he's, it's for the gay community. I think he did, or maybe it was gay marriage. I'm not sure. But
That might make Joe Biggs very happy. But for the most part, yeah, it doesn't matter. You know, it's about values. They're like, oh, you hate me. I get people that say, well, you wake up in the morning and you oppress minorities. Like, what do? I get like a Post-it and I'm like, who am I going to oppress today? You know, who didn't I oppress yesterday? No, I don't care. To me, the only ism in my vocabulary, right, would have to do with ideology, right? So like if you don't have an ideology that's oppressive, then I'm going to insult you. That's their bare bones. Listen, and there's another thing that conservatives are a very broad movement, right? So when it comes to we all have different talents.
For a second, if you can, Enrique, we're going to have to go to commercial.
Okay.
I'm Shane Jenkins. It's Sarah McAbee here with us. This is Liberty's Cage, and we have special guest Enrique Tarrio. We will be right back after this commercial break.
Corrupt judges, broken families, families torn apart. This is injustice. If you've been wronged by the system, join us. Don't stand alone. Hi, I'm Gary Jacobs, president of Americans for Legal Reform. We're the oldest legal reform group in the United States. The justice system in the United States should be transparent, fair, and open to everybody and accessible. Unfortunately, many times that's not the case. At Americans for Legal Reform, we are here to help. Join the movement. Visit AmericansForLegalReform.com and help reform the system before it fails you.
My name is Elena Ruseva, aka Megalangela. Please check my art at www.megalangela.vip.
Are you a musician, comedian, actor, filmmaker, or artist who stands for traditional American values? Do you believe in the preservation of our nation, our culture, and our freedoms? If you share our passion for America and want to use your talents to make a difference, we want to hear from you. Our mission is clear. Through the arts, we uphold the principles of freedom, faith, family, and the American spirit. It's time to step up to the mic and make your voices heard. So contact us at AmericanConservativeArtists.com. The Queens Village Republican Club is America's oldest Republican club, founded in 1875. Situated in President Trump's hometown in Queens, New York, we are America First MAGA Republicans, empowering fellow Republicans to get involved in the game of politics at the grassroots level. We host inspiring monthly club meetings on the first Thursday of each month at 8 p.m. For more information, please go to our website at www.qvgop.org.
It's Tuesday here at the America First Warehouse. I am Joe the Box.
And I'm John the Blanket.
Freddie Rubino here with my podcast. That's what I'm talking about. Coming to you live from the most patriotic venue in the land.
Welcome to Right for America.
I'm James Justice. We got Stephen Ruth over here. What are we doing, Steve? Fighting!
Welcome to Tune In Tuesday of the Patriots Podcast, live streaming every Tuesday night at 7:30.
Another edition of On the Right Side here, and you can catch us weekly, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
And welcome to Liberty's Cage, where we rip the veil off America's broken justice system, prisons that crush spirits, and a society that shuns people who have paid their price.
Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Kevin Downey Jr. Podcast. Be free, stay free.
Welcome to Suffocating in Suburbia with me, your host, Stevie GB.
Welcome back to Liberty's Cage. I am your host, Sarah McAfee, joined by my co-host, Shane Jenkins, and joined by a very special guest, Mr. Enrique Tarrio. Enrique, will you go back into what you're saying before Shane so rudely interrupted you for our commercial break?
Yes, I could. So what I'm saying is that the conservative movement is multifaceted. Like, we all have our focuses, right? And I kind of think that that's why we're in this like little mini civil war right now, because we're very independent thinkers. And, you know, like talking about the Proud Boys in specific, like we had a role, right? And our role was always security and protecting Trump supporters from being assaulted. So then the story goes to 2016. I was a door knocker for Donald Trump, knocked on about 40,000 doors through the primary and the general. And what ended up happening is it's kind of like a whole bunch of different subcultures came together into one movement. You had like the patriots from the Tea Party movement that were out on the streets. Then you had like the internet shit posters that were from 4chan that came in, and you got Pepe the Frog and stuff. So then the Proud Boys got created as a men's group, because men's group at the time and for a very long time wasn't cool anymore. It wasn't cool to hang out with your boys. There was like this a vacuum of masculinity that happened in the United States over the course of decades, right? So the Proud Boys came and filled that role, and people actually think that we're just like some security thing. No, we're a drinking club first, and then we protect people because that's what men do. So I went and I was working. I was a DoD contractor for about 12 years at that point, and I had a friend of mine call me and tell me, "Hey, there's security for this event for Milo Yiannopoulos, and I want you to do it." And I'm like, "Okay, no problem." I knew who Milo was. And I met these guys with these black and yellow Fred Perrys, and they tried to recruit me at first. I'm like, no way, the name is gay as hell. I'm not doing it. And then by coincidence, I was working for another local candidate at the time, and the very next day there was a gala, and I went to the gala, and one of the Proud Boys were there, and he tried to recruit me again, and that's when I said yes. When I joined, I think there was only about 150 Proud Boys in existence, give or take. And I was very active in the community, so I instantly, when I got into the group, it kind of grew wings because I was always out, so we're recruiting new people. Fast forward, I started going to events. We did some hurricane relief efforts in Texas, in your state, Shane. Okay. We did that. We did it for like 5 days, and then...
Was that Harvey, I guess?
Hurricane Harvey, yep. And from there, that blew us up a lot. And then our trips to Portland. Portland is a very the history of Portland is very rich for free speech in the 70s. And then leftists obviously took over, and that's the birthplace of the American version of Antifa. So we'd see them assaulting Trump supporters. We beat the shit out of them, make them stop, always in self-defense. And in 2018, something happened in New York where our guys were walking out of a comedy show, got assaulted by Antifa, defended themselves, and the governor at the time, which is running for mayor of New York right now, Cuomo, decided to arrest not the aggressors, the people that were defending themselves, which were the Proud Boys. And they went through trial. So Gavin stepped down. We had an election. I put myself up to become the chairman of the organization, which is the head of the organization, and I won. I woke up the next morning to a unanimous vote. I've ran the Proud Boys since then, and I've been elected unanimously since that year, and our elections are annual. We started going to D.C., Austin, Portland, New York, all the hot zones where Trump supporters were being attacked, and from there, it kind of expanded from 150 members all the way up to 45,000 members internationally, because we're not just here in the United States. We're South Korea, Canada, Mexico, Australia, Poland, Russia, Ukraine, Israel. We're all over the place.
Can you share kind of what what I don't want to say the motto, but what the belief is. A lot of people say, you know, they're misogynists and they're racist, and what that's what the left would say. So, can you give what you're able to share with the general public? Just kind of tell.
So, what is the Proud Boys? And depending on who you have sitting on this chair, you might get a different answer, right? Because again, our focuses are different. We're not a very focused organization. Like, let's say if you're a pro-life group, you know, you have one beat. You know, we have different focuses. Like, I'm very political. Some of the guys are not political. You know, our Texas Proud Boys are not very political. They're just a drinking club. They don't go to rallies. They don't need to. It's Texas.
Need to.
So to tell you, like, if I were to tell you, like, what's a Proud Boys goal, it's to make better men. How do you make better men? You make better brothers, you make better neighbors, better sons, better husbands, better fathers. That's how you make better men. So, like, I'm a business owner. I've always been a business owner my entire life, but I don't have any kids. So if we go to a meet, one of my guys that has a 9 to 5 and has like 6 kids, you know, might want to start his own business. He'd ask me how to start a business, but like, let's say I have a kid, I go to him and I'm like, hey, how do I do this? You know, obviously I'll go to my dad, my family, but I'm saying, like, iron sharpens iron. And like I said in the beginning, full circle is like, there was a vacuum of masculinity in the United States, and we just wanted to be boys. And that movement went from just like a little club in New York or Miami or Los Angeles to a global movement, you know.
Well, for me, I was always you know, unabashedly masculine, and then unapologetically proud of Western civilization, right? I mean, it's the West is the best, right? And so is that wrong, or?
No, that's correct. That's correct. Not in its entirety. You know, there's some things that Western civilization gets wrong, at least the modern version of it. And sometimes we got to look into history to take a look and seeing what worked before, what didn't work. So it's a process of always being better. And you could translate that to being a man or a woman in that case. You know, you always try to become a better man or a better woman. And then we get called misogynists, right? Which is bullshit. You know, it's a men's club. You know, women can have women's club, men's have men's club. And I think it's the opposite of misogyny. You know, women aren't below you, women are above you. You know, they should be put on that pedestal. They should be respected. They should be, you know, honored, you know, because they're the creators of life. You know, they're the ones that build our communities in which we live. So, like, I don't want my woman to be barefoot in the kitchen, but if that's what she wants, then it's my job to zip my mouth, right? To shut up and put out so she could have that life. Now, if she wants to be a business owner, then you know what? I help her become a business owner too. It doesn't matter. You know, it's her preference. It's not mine. You know, I'm just there. I'm just a dude to make it happen. You know? If she wants to fucking stay home and bake cookies, then you know it's my job to fucking work those extra 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a day to make that a reality.
Right. Well,
so I think that's the opposite of misogyny, right?
Yeah. No, for sure. Well, and it's like, for me, I believe that Christ was the ultimate example of what a man should be to a woman. He laid down his life. And, you know, where they call the Christ is the groom and the church is the bride, and he laid down his life for his bride, which was us, right? So that is the ultimate example of what I feel like I'm in. With your family, your children, you should lay down your life for them, sometimes literally, but mostly metaphorically. So from a drinking club to being proud men, this led you to the Summer of Love, and then eventually to January 6th. Do you want to talk about that before we got a couple of minutes, 3 minutes until break?
So like coming into the election, it was a very hot year. You know, I was running for Congress at the beginning of 2020. I dropped out because this thing called COVID hit. We all got locked down. You know, businesses were closed, which schools were closed, which brought in the mental health issues. Then we had the Summer of Love, where we saw these local governments allow these BLM and Antifa go wild and burn cities to the fucking ground. So, you know, we didn't we reacted in small pockets, but we didn't want to go like in Atlanta. The Proud Boys weren't going to go to Atlanta and save Atlanta from burning itself down. Plus they were burning the CNN building. I'd probably join them doing that. But regardless of the fact, they allowed it to happen nonstop. And then come November of 2020, they stole an election. So it was our job as Americans to protest that stolen election, and we did. We did aggressively so. We protected Trump supporters in the November rally, the Million MAGA March. I was in Atlanta, I was in Michigan, I was in Arizona that whole month. Then December, we had the December 12th Million MAGA March, and then fast forward January 6th, right? Which was a day, as Briggs said, that'll live in infamy, right? And then the Democrats want to tell you that January 6th happens because Trump claimed that the stolen election. No, bullshit. It started in 2016, right? During a debate when Hillary Clinton decided to call Trump supporters, and not only Trump supporters, just people that regular working class Americans, a basket of deplorables. You start dehumanizing us at that time. You take our voices away. Right? You ban us off social media. You use the banking system through systems like PayPal or credit card processors. You ban us from the banking system. Then you ban us from our accounts. Then you lock us down. And then you let these cities burn to the ground. And then you have the balls to say that it was a stolen election claim. No, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Elections have consequences, and so do stolen elections have consequences. I don't like what happened, a lot of stuff that happened on January 6th. I would have done it differently myself, but that's what you get when you oppress people for so long.
That's right.
And we don't take that. It's not like we're going to let our country go to shit before we start fighting back.
Well, I'm Shane Jenkins with Sarah McAbee. This is Liberty's Cage. We're again here with Enrique Tarrio. We will be right back after this commercial break.
Sounds to me.
As of this week, public gay sex will now be mandatory.
Am I the only one who could see his lips move?
Cheekbones, baby.
I'm sorry, maybe I overreacted.
Corporate transfer. Fine professional, moving and storage, and inventory management.
Hey, fellow patriots, it's Cindy Gross here, host of Right for America from your favorite place, the America First Warehouse. You've seen me show on my show so many products from this country's #1 most patriotic manufacturer with close to 400 products. You need to exchange the products you use in your house to this company and make your dollars count in our country.
Freddie Rubino here at the America First Warehouse. I'm inviting you to the live taping of the Not So Newlywed Show. Just click on the QR code right above my shoulder and you can get tickets. Live taping of the Not So Newlywed Show. Drinks, snacks, it's a great time. We'll see you there October 18th. The America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
It's me, Joe the Box, the America First Warehouse, most patriotic venue in all the land.
The America First Warehouse,
And we are back at Liberty's Cage. I'm your host, Sarah McAfee, joined by my co-host, Shane Jenkins, with our very special guest, Mr. Tarrio. So we were talking about going into January 6th. And Enrique, correct me if I'm wrong, but you weren't even in D.C. on January 6th. Is that correct?
I'm the only, I believe I'm the only one out of 1,600 defendants that wasn't there that day. And the reason why I wasn't there is because on December 12th, I decided to burn a Black Lives Matter banner. And get arrested for it and do maximum jail the maximum term allotted for burning that banner. So on January 4th, I got arrested for burning that banner, and the judge banned me from the District of Columbia, which at the time wasn't a big deal to me. You know, I've been traveling for like 2 months. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take a break. I've listened to the president speak a whole bunch of times. My guys are going to be on the street. They're going to make sure that people are protected. I was supposed to speak on 3 different stages that day. And, you know, I didn't worry about it because obviously I didn't plan anything. If you didn't plan to overthrow the United States government, then you wouldn't really worry about it. Then I saw the events unfold on January 6th. I was worried about my guys. I called them. You know, everybody was okay. I didn't want to ask them whether they went in. You know, I didn't even want them to say it. I was like, don't tell me anything. Are you guys okay? Yes, that's it. Then over the course of that year, we got Joe Biggs got picked up as Biden was getting inaugurated.
Oh, wow.
Biden was literally at the inauguration stage while they were kicking down Joe Biggs's door, right? About a week and a half later, they pick up Ethan. About Dominic Pizzola was picked up, I believe, on like January 15th. So he was one of the first ones in my case. I didn't know Dominic at the time almost at all. He was just part of a group chat with me. And then in March, in 2021, they picked up Zachary Real. So I said, you know what? This is impossible. They can't pick me up for this. So I was advocating for them. I was on every newscast that I could, on every podcast. I was talking about it on our podcast because me, Ethan, and Biggs had a podcast called The War Boys. You know, I thought it was going to be impossible for them to come pick me up. And one day on March 8th of 2022, over a year later after January 6th, my door gets kicked in and turns into toothpicks. They pick me up. I pretty much get charged with seditious conspiracy. One of my closest brothers turns on me and testifies against us in this case. We decided to go to trial. I had trial posture day one, and so did the 4 other guys. I didn't know Dominic for nothing. I didn't know anything about him. I thought he was going to be the one that flipped. No, he's the one with the biggest brass set of balls in the group, and he remained course. We had the longest trial in DC history. The FBI and the DOJ violated our rights multiple times. Our attorney-client privilege. The FBI was listening to our attorney-client privilege phone calls. They planted an informant within our defense camp to send back information on trial strategy, which is illegal. They lied to witnesses. They tampered with my witness, my star witness, Lieutenant Shane Lamond of the Metropolitan Police Department, 22-year veteran, head of intelligence for the Metropolitan Police Department. I put him on the witness list. They knock on his door and they're like, well, if you go testify, I'm just letting you know that we're investigating you, and that investigation is going to move faster if you testify, because you're going to have to testify in your own trial. We end up losing. Long story short, because the DC jury, when you ask a juror, have you ever heard the name Enrique Tarrio? Yes. Do you know of Enrique Tarrio? Yes. Do you have strong feelings against Enrique Tarrio? Yes. Can you put those strong feelings aside and judge this case by the evidence alone? And when a juror says no to that question, that juror should automatically be thrown out. Mm-hmm. There's 3 jurors that said no, and they kept them on. They rehabilitated them and brought them into the jury. So we never had a chance. It doesn't matter. The prosecutor could have just, it could have just presented and been like, hey, my name's Jason McCullough with the DOJ, and these are the Proud Boys. Your Honor, I rest my case. That's all he had to do. And then we could have presented our case for 6 months. That jury was still going to convict no matter what. You could have hit us from everything from jaywalking to obtaining nuclear weapons and possession of nuclear weapons. They would have hit us with guilty, guilty, guilty across the board. They didn't give a fuck. So that's where I met Shane. We were awaiting sentencing. We're in the DC gulag together along with all the other J6ers. Which was the best time I ever had. Obviously, it's one of the most oppressive jails in the United States, but I was with my brothers, so it didn't really matter. We sang the national anthem at 9. Really appreciative of Mickey and the rest of the crew that sat out there for how many days in a row, Shane?
Over 900.
I think you said
900 something days in a row holding vigils for us. So, like, you guys should be the ones that are like put on pedestals. You know, you guys are our heroes. So that I was in pretty much besides that point there, I was held in solitary confinement. I was put in box cuffs one time for 26 hours straight. In transit, box cuffs looked like a medieval torture device. And we only had one hope. We had two. Either we win it on appeals, which was likely because the Supreme Court overturned the 1512, but our hope was Donald J. Trump to keep his promises. And I'll tell you, Donald Trump was late. He said that he was going to pardon us within the first 9 minutes. He was about 6 minutes late to that. A lot of people don't know this, but Donald Trump did this thing. He got inaugurated, swore on the Bible at noon, and he said that he's going to go to the Kennedy Center to sign the executive orders and the pardons at 5:30 p.m. Well, that was bullshit. He had already signed the pardons. The BOP had already gotten the emails at 1:30 to be prepared to release us, and we all got released that day. I almost didn't get released that day, by the way, because the pardon technically, there's a technicality there that doesn't cover me, that the pardon says in or around the Capitol. Obviously, I wasn't in or around the Capitol, so I got released the next day.
I didn't get till the next day too. It was technically 1 a.m. So
yeah. So I'll tell you, it's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride. So I'm appreciative of all of our supporters. Period. And the future looks very, very, very bright.
When you were going into trial, like before this, did you have any hope in our justice system?
It was a roller coaster. Sometimes I would, sometimes I wouldn't. You know, it wasn't binary. Some days I think we'd beat them in trial. Some days I was completely like black pilled and thought, you know, I was going to spend the rest of my life in prison, you know, because they were trying to give me 50 years. They brought that down to 33 years. And then the judge was so nice. He was so nice that he gave me 22 years instead of 33 or 50. I mean, the guy's a national hero, huh? You know?
So how, when you weren't even there on January 6th, out of the 1,600 people that were charged, you got the highest sentence?
I was alleged to be the main architect of the entire assault on the Capitol, which is exactly what they said at my sentencing, and they said it throughout trial. I manipulated people into thinking that the election was stolen, and I was coordinating with the president himself. They tried to get me to flip on the president. I told them to go fuck themselves. They didn't like that very much, so that's probably why they increased it to 22 years. But I was the leader of I was the boogeyman for them. And they were trying, it's a chessboard. You know, we're playing chess, not checkers.
Oh, hey, plug right there. Thanks.
And the name of the game is to take your opponent's pieces off the board. So where do they start? They start with the smaller pieces, right? They get like a regular J6er that just walked in and out. Then they move their way up. They get the rooks, the bishops, the knights, and eventually they want to get the king and put him in a horizontal position, which is Donald Trump. That was a king piece. That's what they wanted. All these 1,600 arrests and more, if Kamala Harris would have stolen the election, was all about one thing. It was to stop him from becoming president again. Through me, they wanted to connect him to the seditious conspiracy, quote, seditious conspiracy that happened that day, which there wasn't. But they didn't care. They didn't care. They threw out the rule book. And I think that we should start playing by their own rules.
You know what I was thinking, that it was kind of racist that you got the most time because you probably were the darkest complected January Sixers, so that's why I feel like they were.
I'm going to tell you something funny. When I heard that David Dempsey, that he was going to get time, I was hoping, number one, I was hoping he didn't get any time.
Right.
Last time, but when they said, "Oh, we want to give him 30 years," I'm like, I hope he doesn't beat me. I hope he doesn't beat me. I hope he doesn't beat me. I like being first, man. I like being first at things.
First, yeah. Only I got the most.
Yeah. So, but it was because of that. They see masculinity as a threat. You know, it is a threat. It is a threat to their existence because you see it every day. They're trying to, in Seattle, they're trying to stop parents from saying what their kids can be taught. They're teaching this LGBTQ plus R tranny things, and it is a threat. Masculinity is a threat to the Democratic Party.
You know, you mentioned chess, and I'm thinking about, you're talking about different pieces, and I would probably, I don't know what I would put you as, like a bishop maybe, but I was thinking about the knights, like, and I think like about all the veterans, 72% of all Jan Sixers were your first responders, veterans, prison guards, police officers, and stuff like that. And they wanted them, and they were harder on them. Like somebody like me who has a criminal record from Texas, they took mercy. They had mercy on me because of my criminal record.
Yeah.
Whereas they used law enforcement military's record
they did
against them, which is so backwards.
It's you know, we're not everybody. The Proud Boys aren't everybody's cup of tea. You know, we cuss a lot. We wear crazy shirts. We're loud. We're obnoxious, but we want to protect people.
Yeah.
And I don't expect everybody to like us. Right. I don't I don't like all of our guys, but they are my brothers, and I defend my brothers, and I defend my J6ers just the same. So that's fortunately how it works.
Well, and you know, I believe the things we stand on, we fight for all American people, even with people with views we disagree with. I fight for everybody's First Amendment right, even if I disagree with them.
And we got to take on offense, you know, and that's why we're suing the United States government and the FBI.
Well, that's a great segue. That's a great segue into our next segment. We're going to come back right after this commercial break. I'm Shane Jenkins, and that's Sarah McAbee, and we have a very special guest, Enrique Tarrio, and he's going to get into this whole lawsuit here right after the break.
The America First Ultra MAGA store. For all your MAGA needs. We sell t-shirts, tumblers, flags, hats, sneakers, bumper stickers, and a whole lot more. The most patriotic America First retail store. The America First Ultra MAGA store.
Gold and silver, it's God's money, and we all need it. Unfortunately, the whole precious metals industry is rigged in favor of the wealthy people. In fact, it's so complicated that 95% of all Americans don't own any precious metals. What the industry needed was a way for us to buy fractional units of precious metals, get free storage in a secure vault, have them insured, take physical possession of the metals, or instantaneously liquidate the assets at one of the highest buyback prices in the industry. Well, now there is. It's called a Sound Money account, and everybody needs one. With a membership, you can start buying gold and silver with as little as $1. Now that fits everyone's budget. Also, our members can gift gold and silver between each other in our Sound Money accounts. What a great way to pass on generational wealth. You'll be able to rest easier knowing you have the security and flexibility found in having your very own Sound Money account. Please scan the QR code or go to TAFWSoundmoney.com to learn more. The America First Warehouse wants every American to have access to owning their very own precious metals.
Freddie Rubino here at the America First Warehouse. I'm inviting you to the live taping of the Not So Newlywed Show. Just click on the QR code right above my shoulder and you can get tickets live taping of the Not So Newlywed Show. Drinks, snacks, it's a great time. We'll see you there October 18th.
First Warehouse was really the most patriotic venue that you can ever imagine. We wanted to build something for people to be able to come to and feel so comfortable and so relaxed, because there is nothing out there like it. We give an opportunity for people to really feel good about themselves and about this great country.
I'm Shane Jenkins. Welcome back to Liberty's Cage. We have my co-host, Sarah Maccabee, and our awesome guest and personal friend of mine, fellow Gulag gang member and, perennial Proud Boy, Enrique Tarrio. Glad to have you with us, man. And you were just about to get into the lawsuit, so we'd love to hear about that if you want to get into it.
So we decided day one, I walked out of that prison on January 21st in the morning. I was already planning on going on the offense because I wasn't just going to chill out and be a regular 9 to 5 human being. Yeah, I wasn't going to be a beige Camry. So we decided to go on the offense, and from day one, we started attorney shopping for an attorney that's willing to take on the United States government, because in the beginning, it was the United States versus Enrique Tarrio. Now it's Enrique Tarrio versus the United States. It's all, you got Joe Biggs, you got Ethan Nordine, you got Zachary Real, you got Dominic Pizzola. And our case was very unique, so we didn't want to jump into like somebody else's lawsuit. And we knew that a class action lawsuit wasn't a reality. So we did that, and we announced it in mid-February. It took us 6 weeks to put together a team of attorneys, and it took us like another month to actually file. And just recently, the government filed an order to dismiss, which I find hilarious because the prosecutors in our case were fired for misconduct in our case specifically. But now the government's position is that everything that the Biden DOJ did was correct. You can't have it both ways. You either go with the Biden administration and what their version of the story is and their political persecution and their tyranny, or you can go with the truth, because it is the truth. We were political pawns. We weren't a danger. We didn't commit an act of sedition. We didn't try to overthrow the United States government from the comfort of my iPhone, because I wasn't even there. I can't even do it from the comfort of my iPhone because they took my phone from me. So I didn't even have a phone that day. While the events in January 6th were happening, after January 6th, I started seeing it. I ran and I purchased one of those Go phones so I could call everybody. But for the most part, like, you can't have it both ways. Either they sue you, either those prosecutors sue you for wrongful termination and you lose, or you go with the truth. There's 1,600 individuals, and look, obviously the 22-year thing is like a recurring theme every time like we talk about this. But I have a very strong family. I have a very strong support system, and because of those 3 years, I lost material things, as opposed to somebody that probably only did, 14 days or 30 days in prison. They probably lost, their families, like their wife probably left them, their husbands probably left them. They lost their mortgage, they lost their home, their family doesn't want to talk to them anymore. So I consider myself lucky in the scheme of things. I consider myself in the 1 percentile that it's of J6ers that are least affected by the events of J6. Am I affected by it? Obviously. I lost 3 years of my life. You put me in a fucking concrete coffin for 3 years. I'm coming after your ass. And we're coming after your ass through retribution. And what is retribution? Because every time I say that word, they're like, oh my God, what's he saying? I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about justice, right? Because that's the retribution I want. I want not only to be compensated for the amount of time and life lost and those things that I'd lost. I want these people to go to prison. I want the same system to be used against them. I'm not, and you know what? That might not be the correct way of thinking, but that's what they've made me. right? The correct way of thinking is, hey, look, we shouldn't be. No, you need to put them in prison.
Yeah.
Because what happens if we don't? In 2028, they're going to put Donald Trump in prison again. Or they're going to try to. And they're going to be successful, actually, this time. Because this time, he's not running for president. What are they going to do with us? We're going back to the gulag. And the only way to stop it is to show them force, show them power. Put them in prison and put them in prison now. I'm tired of this lollygagging. I'm tired of, oh, we need to play politics. Listen, I'm patient. I know that things take time. But Shane, as you know, some people got arrested in January and were able to push their trial past the inauguration of Donald Trump. What happens on these high-profile people that get like the best attorneys in the world? They're able to push it to past January 20th, 2029. And you don't know what's going to happen. What if J.D. Vance, what if they steal the election from J.D. Vance? Because that's going to be the contender right there on the Republican side. There's no doubt about that. They're coming after us. And they're not only coming after us, they're coming after you. You guys are watching this. Like we were just like they're test dummies, right? Because that's exactly what they want. They want to take all the pieces off the board, all of them. They want power. They're thirsty for power, and God forbid they get it again.
They want us dead. If they had their way about it, they would have us all dead.
I wholeheartedly agree with you there. So we need to start. Real justice needs to happen. The prosecutors need to go to prison. The FBI agents involved need to go to prison. The forensics people need to go to prison. And these judges need to go to prison. There is a crime, okay? There's hundreds of thousands of laws on the books. You need to start using them. So, and again, I'm that might not be the best way, but like this is how they have me, and like this is reality. It's a game. It's not democracy anymore. They've wiped their ass with the Constitution for so long. They're playing dirty, and we're trying to be like on a moral high ground. We can't do that.
No.
We're going to lose. And then when you're in a prison cell, you're going to be like, then you're going to be looking up constitutional law, and you'll be like, oh, well, my rights were violated. Well, that's not the time to bitch. That's not the time to complain.
Could have fought harder.
You got to fight harder, because then you're in that concrete coffin. Reality hits you like a freight train, and you start thinking of all the things that you could have done, and that you're there not for something you committed. Look, I committed crimes when I was a kid. I was a fucking car thief. Okay, I used to steal cars, and I got arrested for it, and I did my fucking time, and I deserved it. And again, I say it full circle. I was a little shit, and I deserved it. They kicked my ass after I threw tear gas back at the cops. I deserved it. And I was like, damn it, I'm going to have to do 6 months in juvie, you know? But I was able to do it because I was like, you know what? I did the crime. I need to pay the time. It's different when you're innocent of a crime and they give you 22 years. Makes you angry. It makes your blood boil. What they did to Joe Biggs, what they did to Zach, what they did to Ethan, what they did to Dom, like that's wrong. They did it to us. We need to do it to them. Because if not, they're going to do it to us again.
Well, like you said, you guys are just test subjects. What they did with the 1,600 January 6th defendants, they instilled fear into the American people. Still today, people are fearful. But that's what apathy is. Apathy is enough good people sitting back doing nothing. And that's why we were where we were as a country for so long. And I know a lot of people put their hope and faith into Donald Trump, but like he's just one man. And I think they forget, like, yeah, we were the silent majority for a long time, but now it's just time for us to be the majority, because if not, they are going to go after people. They're going to go back after y'all. And then they're going to go after the people like Mickey and Nicole and myself, the ones that stood up. And then who's going to be left for the other ones? There is going to be no one. They're going to put us all on boxcars.
Yep.
Well, to that effect, you say that, like Enrique and I were just talking about this the other day. I think his name is William Taylor, an FBI whistleblower, who released these documents of the people that were supporting January 6ers, donating to their Give Send Goes. The FBI was going in and investigating these people and looking up Stripe, like going to Stripe and getting information, and then they were finding out what debit card made the payment to the Jan Sixer, and then what bank held that bank account that person was donating from. And then, so what they were going to do is, if Kamala Harris won, they were going to start rounding these people up. They labeled us domestic terrorists or terrorists in general, and they were going to arrest these people for providing aid and support to terrorists, to the enemies of the state, and they were going to charge those people with felonies. And so we've got, just like Enrique said, they're coming for you next. And he really took the next step for me. I hadn't even considered, like, if we lose this next election, the danger that we as a group right here and the rest of the American public might be in. So it's something to consider. We've got about 2 minutes left. Enrique, go ahead and give us your socials, and any way, if people want to help you out, how they can do that, go ahead and just share that with us if you can.
Yeah, before I do that, you said that the FBI and how they were targeting people. Bill Barr, before January 6th, was already targeting me and Roger Stone. They already knew. They were already working towards it. And after that accelerated, because they knew the steps to take to frame Donald Trump. They knew exactly how they needed to do it. And they were meticulous, and they were conniving, and they weren't good at it. Because at the end of the day, everybody saw through the bullshit. So you could find me on Twitter and Truth Social. Noble Lead is my handle on Truth Social. On X, you could find me Noble1, spelled out O-N-E. I run a podcast network called the War Boys Studios, as you see right here, at War Boys Studios on X. To support me financially, I don't have a Give, Send, Go, but you could go to noblelead.substack.com and hit yourself a Founders Deck. And also, if you subscribe to the Founders Deck at my Substack, I send you a box full of merchandise from the 1776.shop. So I appreciate you guys for having me on. I tell you, like, my last words to your audience is you need to get off your ass, because if you thought 2024 was the most important election ever, and we hear that every time. But 2028, there's so much at stake, because they're going to want, it's not even payback. Blood. They're going to want to put us in chains. So if you don't get up because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. We're going to lose the House come the midterms. Put a stamp on it. Bookmark this. They're going to impeach the president come February. It's not going to pass the Senate, but then the lawfare is going to start. It's just going to keep coming until they find the right ingredients, and they put them all together, and they create the same thing that we saw with the 4 years of Biden. So you need to get up off your ass. You need to run for office. You need to knock on doors for your favorite candidate. You need to pass out flyers. You need to work the polls, not at a strip club. And you really need to start taking action to make this country better, because it's in decline. The Death of the West was written in the 90s. And if you read it, it's everything that we're going through today. The death of the West is inevitable. But the tyranny that's been coming, can be stopped. And it's up to you guys. I said it before. I don't say anything differently than most Americans do. But the reason why the Proud Boy name is because we don't just make pretty pixels on social media. You know us for our actions that we took in real life. It's not about podcasting. It's not about social media posts. Those things help. I'm not saying they don't. But we took in real life action when we saw a problem. And that's the same thing that you guys need to do. So thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Shane, for having me on.
Absolutely. Patriots, today's fight burns bright. Shane's resolve, Enrique's courage, and the J6ers that are still battling drive us forward. As Shane said, 72% of January 6 defendants were veterans or first responders, heroes betrayed by courts in prisons that serve power, not justice. Apathy won't cut it anymore. Stand in the Gap is fighting for these patriots, funding legal aid, supporting families, and helping them rebuild their lives. Go to standinthegap.foundation, donate, share your story, and help restore our heroes. Together, we'll forge a system worthy of America. Thank you, Shane, Enrique, and every listener. God bless you, God bless your families, and God bless America.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.